Hey everyone, Scott here to discuss Tron, starring Jeff the Dude Man Bridges, Bruce Boxleitner, Bernard Hughes, and Cindy Morgan, and David Warner, and directed by Steven Lisberger. Now, before I get into this review, I'm coming in as the newbie. I have seen Tron Legacy before, but this is my first two viewings, I'll say, of the original Tron. I I bought it on Blu-ray when the second one came out, just never got around to watching it until recently. And what do I think of it? Let's get into it, shall we? We open with Flynn's arcade where we see the inside of a video game where Tron got trapped in the game. Meanwhile, in the rest of the world, Kevin Flynn, played by Jeff the Dude Man Bridges, with with Clue tries to hack into Ed Dillinger's computer and files, and Dillinger played by David Warner as he owns the company, and Kevin used to work at Encom, which is Dillinger's company, and his master control catches Kevin hacking the game by catching Clue, who ends up deactivating, and Dillinger contacts Master Control about Kevin trying to hack into Dillinger, as I do like the world, but unfortunately it doesn't hold up in 2020. Alan Bradley, played by Bruce Boxleitner, meets with Dillinger about his creation of a game called Tron, who was captured earlier in the film, and Alan meets with Laura, played by Cindy Morgan, who works in the gaming design factory. And I do admire how this movie looks, but it's out of date as it doesn't hold up today. Laura tells Alan about Kevin's plan and goes to Kevin about Dillinger, how Dillinger is on him and for hacking his system, and warns him about it they never have as it as they have an idea of how to break into Encom and hack the system. There, which the outside world isn't that great either, and this isn't exactly great acting by any means. And the computer world is one last time out of date because it doesn't hold up because it was the 1980s. And this movie felt very 1980s, whereas next time it's as pretty as Avatar. But I'll get there when I get there. Kevin gets in the world of Tron by the Master Control, transporting him there in in a blue computer looking suit, I'll say, where the red suit guys with Dillinger's character, Sark, and the Master Control plan plan to destroy Kevin in the computer world. It meets Ram and takes them to Sark and the game's with an identity disc, which can also be used as a weapon. And I don't mind the characters, but the acting is again not that great in my opinion. Kevin plays his first game, which works like this: you throw the light ball on one of the lines and on the circle, and if you hit one, it turns into a death penalty. You fall to death and you get deactivated, or derez, let's say. And that as a game is pretty cool and clever at the same time. Kevin catches up with Alan's program, aka Tron, as the second game is like fast motorcycles, or light cycles, let's call them, but they leave a trail of blue or yellow, and if you crash in the opponent's color, you get derezed. As Kevin escapes with Tron and Ram, and the red guys, or the bad guys, let's say, go after Kevin, Tron, and Ram as they hide. And these games are cool and a clever idea, but it's way too quick that we don't necessarily know the world very well, as it's more focused on the ideas, and the execution is mediocre at best. Tron goes to his creator to find him, while the others drink water, and Kevin and Ram and Tron escape once again from the bad guys. And I'm honestly getting pretty bored at this point. Kevin and Ram get shot off their light cycles while Tron goes on without them, and Ram is unconscious. And the problem is, I'm just bored out, and I unfortunately don't really care at this point. Kevin creates his own ship that he shot at in the games called the Recognizer, And Ram dies, and I don't find the death scene very good and is derezzed. And Kevin flies the Recognizer to the location of Tron as Tron finds Yori and gets him to safety. Meanwhile, Kevin finds his creation Clue as a derezzed dot, like let's call it, and crashes the Recognizer around and breaks into the pieces thanks to Kevin's bad driving. And Kevin arrives to the location where Tron is supposed to be as Tron gets to Dumont, and he passed by Dumont to connect with his creator and he escapes, with Yori on a ship that looks like a parachute with which looked rather cheap, and the whole sequence is corny. And Kevin catches up with Tron and meets with Yori for the first time as the Recognizer has Laura here as Laura, or as he's recognizing her as Laura, and they work together on getting away from Sark and the Red guys. And the Red guests, they get into a rainbow looking tunnel to the other side and get crashed by the Red guys. And they kill Tron as Kevin and Yori catch up with Dumont and encounter Sark and trap Kevin and Yori. But eventually they will escape, and Tron fights with Sark while while and defeats him as he fights Master Control, and Kevin with in Yori destroy Master Control by jumping into the beam, and the world changes colors from red to blue, and Kevin comes back to the real world, and Kevin gets priority 1 as he's the owner of Encom. And the climax is pretty unrealistic, but I just don't care at this point, unfortunately. Now it's time for the rating. I'll give this movie a 4.3 out of 10. The world is cool, and don't get me wrong, and has clever ideas, but I was bored, and the effects don't hold up today as it did in the 1980s. And my problem was I just didn't care to the point I was bored by this movie because it's banal, and I don't really care for the characters, and I'm concerned for next time. And we'll see how that goes with the 3D world. So we'll be back next time with Tron Legacy. And until next time, game on.